there should be a line. Everybody see
There
the
is.
line?
There's an orange line,
Okay.
a curvy line, yep.
All right, we're off and running.
Okay, it's all yours.
Line, terrific, thank you. This line, then, is in some ways the most important thing I want you to take away from the next hour or so. And it represents the flow of somebody going into a new job as they converge and evolve, and we'll talk about that later. But that's the main idea. And I don't know if you have this in Saudi Arabia or wherever you are, but certainly in my country, my mother and most of my friends' mothers, when we were growing up, always taught us never to swim alone, particularly if there were rough waters. And what we're finding around the world is that anybody going into a new job is going into rough waters. And you can read the thing up there, 40% of executives fail in the first 18 months. Sorry, that ringing will stop in a moment. And they fail, when they fail, for three reasons. Either because of a poor fit, or because of poor delivery, or because they can't adjust. They can't adjust. And Ali took you through my background, so I won't redo that. But the pivotal moment for me, in the write-up we talked about moments of impact. Pivotal moment for me was I was at Coca-Cola in Japan, and we brought a new executive in to work for us, and he was really expensive. He came in as a vice president. We had to pay him. We had to pay the executive recruiter. We had to pay a signing bonus, and we had to buy out his stock options. And then we had to relocate him and his family and his wine and his dog to Japan. And he showed up day one and was greeted with, "Oh, hello. You're here. Wonderful. We're so excited to see you. Yes, we've got to get you an office, and you'll need business cards, and you'll need a computer." And I just said, this is nuts. This is one of those critical moments of impact as we bring a new leader into the organization, and we don't look like we were prepared. We don't look like we cared. We don't look like we were ready, and that is the wrong first impression. So I spent the next several years putting together the ideas that you're going to see today, and over the last 10 years, whether in my writing or our consulting or work with leaders, it's pretty much all I've focused on. How to accelerate people in new jobs. And what we've learned and what we've come out with is these two ideas, or these two streams. We figured out that it doesn't start day one. If you wait till day one, if you wait till the person walks in to start trying to figure out what office they should be in, you've missed the boat. There is these series of gates: the first contact, the offer, and accepting, and then going to day one at the start, that you have to be thinking through as you're working about onboarding people. And if you're the new leader going into a new job, and of course we're all leaders at some point, the three ideas are the ones on the bottom from our book, The New Leader's 100-Day Action Plan. You've got to get a head start before day one. You've got to manage your message. You've got to build your team. But if you are bringing somebody in, we're going to focus on the top line, and it's about aligning the organization, acquiring the new leader, the new person, the new employee in a way that helps with the onboarding. It's about accommodating them, making sure they can do work. It's about assimilating them into the team, making sure they can do work with others. And then after day one, it's about accelerating their progress. So if the most important thing I wanted to take away was that first curve, all the important ideas that I'm going to talk about over the next 20 or 30 minutes, and then during questions and answers, are on this page. An analogy that people find helpful is that of putting on a play or a movie or whatever. But think about putting something on. As the boss of the new person coming in, you play three roles. First, you're the producer, assembling the resources. Then you're the director, pointing the way forward for people, telling people what to do. And then eventually you become the stage manager, working behind the scenes. But in all three of those roles, producer, director, stage manager, you're never on stage. It's not about you. It's about the new employee, the new leader, as the star. So that's a framework that's useful. And if we then apply it to what we were thinking about, the first thing you have to do as the producer is get people aligned. If I were king of the world, I would never let anyone start recruiting anybody for any position until they had gotten everybody in the critical stakeholders aligned around their plan, including the recruiting brief. I mean, think about it. You would never you'd never buy a new computer system until you had a plan to implement it, until you had a plan to place the computer system, train people on it, and get people ready. Why then would you do that with a person? So this is about creating a plan. This is about aligning people around the plan. So one of my favorite stories, it's in some ways a little U.S. centric. Sorry about this, but there was a guy named Randy Chase. Look at his picture on screen, and he was a colonel in the United States Army. And he went to do some work on a Navy ship, different branch of the armed services. He was on a Navy ship for 6 weeks, and he ran out of toothpaste. So he went to the ship's store to get some more toothpaste. And ship stores are very, very small, so there was a queue or a line of people outside the store waiting to get in. So he turned to the man in front of him and said, "Good morning." And the man turned around, took one look at him, lost all the color on his face, and literally ran away. 5 minutes later, the executive officer of the ship, the number 2 person in charge on the ship, came back and went to Randy Chase and said, "Colonel, sir, what are you doing?" And Randy had made 2 mistakes. So pause for a moment and see if you can think about what those are or were. The first mistake was getting at the end of the queue. Officers don't stand in line. They either send orderlies to get things for them, or they jump the queue and go to the front. So Randy shouldn't have been standing in the queue in the first place. And secondly, he shouldn't have said good morning, because officers on Navy ships at sea, U.S. Navy ships at sea, only address enlisted men to give them orders. But Randy wasn't used to that, because the culture was very different in the Army. And it's all about the toys. You don't need to know a lot about Navy ships to believe what I'm about to tell you next, which is that if you're on a Navy ship and you make a huge mistake, and your mistake causes the ship to sink, that's a very bad thing. If you make a mistake in an Army tank, and your mistake causes the tank to blow up, well, that's a very bad thing for the 4 people in the tank, but you don't sink the whole battalion. So the Navy has a culture that is designed to minimize risk, command and control, making sure everybody does what they're supposed to do. And the Army has a culture designed to push decisions out to the point of impact. So and this is a very busy chart. It's a spider chart where on each dimension, if you take, for example, the upper left, the behaviors, actions, team versus individual, what that's saying is if the culture is more team-oriented, it would be the outside of the chart. If it's more individual-oriented, it would be at the middle of the chart. And I've mapped the culture, the behaviors, the relationships, the attitudes, the values, and the environment of the U.S. Navy versus the U.S. Army, and they're very different. The Navy is much more command and control, systemic, formal, really protective. And the Army, all right, it's not all the way out. This is not an organization of entrepreneurs, but relative to the Navy, the Army is more adaptive, more welcoming of conflict, certainly has more diffused power and more open to risk. So this is a tool that is useful for how you think about your culture. And you need to think about your culture as part of putting together the recruiting brief, because you need to know what you are before you recruit people in. And then you need to make the decision around whether or not you want the people that you recruit to be exactly like everybody else, which is a totally fair choice, or to be slightly different so that you evolve the culture. It's a choice. Make the choice. Once you've got everybody aligned, you need to acquire the talent. That requires sourcing, selecting, and then closing the sale. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this particular part now, but I'm happy to in the Q&A because there's some interesting things. One is the selection period. The interviewing should not be a joust. It should be building a partnership. And the second is there are some pretty neat ideas around how to close the sale that may be useful to some of you. I'm happy to talk about that. One of the things, though, is that I figured out is there are only 3 interview questions, certainly in the West. I'm not 100% sure whether this works in the Middle East or where anybody else is from. But in the West, every interview question anybody's ever asked anybody is a subset of 1 of 3 questions. Can you do the job? Will you love the job? And can we tolerate working with you? Or strengths, motivation, or fit? And what happens then is, if that's true, the candidate really needs to only prepare 3 answers, laying out his or her talent, knowledge, and skills as part of his or her strengths, understanding what he or she loves to do as part of motivation, and understanding his or her brave cultural preferences in order to communicate them in terms of the fit. And the organization needs to be clear on what capabilities it needs, what the exact role is to make sure people are going to be motivated, and what their culture is to get the match. So back to the slide before, on culture, what you've got is you've got, in an interview, you're looking for the match, the fit, between an individual's preferences and the culture. Again, happy to go into more depth on this if you want. All right, so you've picked the person, you've done the deal, you've closed the sale, it's great. Life is wonderful. What do you do next? Well, you throw them into the deep end of the pool because you've hired the right person. And in theory, if you've hired the right person, they've got the strengths, they've got the motivation, they've got the fit, and they should do fine, right? Wrong. Doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is some people go into this water and they just want to ease in. They think, I've got the job, I'm here, come to me, baby, let me, bring it on, and they're taking it easy. That doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is as people are sort of gently drifting down the river, sometimes they miss the problems in the middle of the river. And for those of you having a hard time seeing or don't understand what you're looking at, there is an alligator in the middle of this river in this picture. Alligators are bad. They tend to eat new employees if people don't take care of them. Other times employees come in and they never quite merge. So this is a picture of the Black River merging with the Amazon in Brazil. Well, it doesn't really merge. What happens is it comes in and then it runs in parallel for about 200 miles. It's there, but it doesn't merge. You've seen that. You've been around where people have joined organizations and they've come in and they never quite become part of the organization. Other people come in and they crash together like 2 waterfalls bumping into each other, and there's all sorts of sound and fury and agony and distress, and that doesn't really work either. Back to the main point. No one will follow anyone until they have earned the right to lead. This is why people need to converge into the organization and truly become part of it before they try to evolve it. Now, there's a conscious competence model, and apologies to the people that already know it. And what happens is you start out unconsciously incompetent. Picture the child in the baby seat. This kid does not know how to drive. This kid doesn't know he doesn't know how to drive. He doesn't care. He's a happy camper because somebody else is doing all the driving for him. Unconsciously incompetent, a very happy stage. as you move up to, oh, I guess my little arrows. As you move up to the picture with the girl with the red hair, she doesn't know how to drive either, but now she's upset. She's 12 years old, and cars mean freedom, and she's got her bicycle, and everybody else has got cars, so she's mad at the world. People that know what they don't know, they're not happy. The girl in the upper left is learning how to drive, and she is consciously competent. She's vaguely happy, but she's got to pay attention to what she's doing until eventually she becomes unconsciously competent, where she can drive and tells the car where to go. It's the same thing with leadership. People that are experienced leaders are unconsciously competent at leading. They know how to lead. They don't really need a ton of help there. They can keep going. But they don't know how to converge into teams. You don't hire people because they're experts at onboarding. You hire them because they're experts at doing the job you need them to do. So the best of the people that don't know how to do this are consciously competent. They can do it, but they have to go step by step. That's okay. Others are consciously incompetent. That's okay too. Those are the ones that raise their hand and say, hi, I don't know how to do this. I don't know your organization. Help me. And you can get them help. The scary ones are the ones that are unconsciously incompetent because they think all they have to do is show up day one and lead, tell people what they want to do, people will follow them, and of course, one of the points is they are wrong. So, you need to accommodate these people. We're switching from acquiring to directing. And you're going to direct them by, one, putting in place a personal onboarding plan, helping them think things through. You don't have to use my book. There are other books. There are other ways to do it. The point is give them a plan. Second thing is make sure they're able to do work day one. The picture on the right, I love it. There's a true story. A man joined IBM. It's a big multinational company based in the New York area. And on his first day, he went from the campus up on the top of the hill. He walked down the hill to IBM's Learning Center, which is a just truly fabulous place. And he walked in, he walked up to the door, and the guard said, where's your ID? And the man said, well, I don't have an identification card. I don't have an identification card yet. It's my first day, and they haven't given me one. And the man said, well, you can't come in. And the first man said, what do you mean I can't come in? It's my first day. If there was ever a day that somebody needed a learning center, it's their first day. And the guard said, listen, buddy, I don't care if you're the CEO of the company, you're not getting in this building without an ID. And the man said, I am the CEO of the company. And it was a guy named Lou Gerstner on his first day as CEO of IBM to prove a point went down to the Learning Center and was not allowed in. Now there's so much wrong with this story on so many levels. I mean, one is, who lets the CEO wander away on his first day? Somebody should have been with him. Secondly, who lets the CEO wander down the hill to the Learning Center without calling the guard at the Learning Center and saying, hi, the new CEO's on his way down, let him in? But they blew that. So you got to have an accommodation checklist. You've got to greet people. So that's reasonably straightforward. In terms of assimilating, and assimilating in some ways starts with the announcement cascade and moves through to the assimilation checklist. And let me go into a little depth on those. The issue is not everybody is going to hear the announcement of the new employee in the same ways. Yeah, some people are less impacted, they don't care. Others are indirectly impacted, they want to know about it and it has an impact. Others are directly impacted. This affects my life. They care a lot. And some get emotional. And as you think about the emotional people, it's somebody who wanted the job, somebody who's getting a new boss, somebody whose friend didn't get the job. It could be any number of reasons why somebody's emotionally impacted. What you don't want to do is you don't want those emotionally impacted people to hear about this at the same time as everybody else, because then their emotions are going to affect everybody else. Instead, have a one-on-one meeting with those emotionally impacted before the announcement so they can get emotional. And when you're done with those, have a small group meeting with those directly impacted so they can ask questions. And when you're done with those, then you can have your announcement and pick up the everything with others afterwards. So there's an announcement cascade. Start with the emotionally impacted, tell the directly impacted, and move on from there. And then you need to assimilate them in. They need to meet people, but not any people. They need to meet not the friendless people who don't know anybody who just want to suck them in and have a new friend. They need to meet the connectors, the brokers, the people either with information and resources or people that can connect them with people with resources. They don't know who they are. The new employees doesn't know who these people are. You do, as their boss, as their HR coach, as their director. So to send them in the right direction. Tell them who to talk to. Tell the people that they're about to talk to that they're coming, and tell those people what you need the new employee to know, and tell the new employee about the people they're going to meet and what they should ask them. It's a good idea. Everybody hates meetings, unless you're new. Meetings are a great way to meet people. Bring your new employees to meetings. Orientation is almost a bad word. But there are ways to do orientations that help assimilate people in and help them learn others. If in the Q&A you're interested, ask me about my orientation to Disney, which was one of the all-time great orientations ever. Disney does this right. There's always behind-the-scenes networks. There's always somebody doing something. I don't know how much fishing you do where you are, but there's somebody doing different sports, different cultural activities with children, worshiping together, traveling together, carpooling, riding the train. So they're behind-the-scenes networks. Your new employee won't know where those networks are. Help them find the network. And there's just an explosion of electronic tools. Make sure your new employee can use those tools to meet others. One of the questions I like to ask people is, who won the 2012 election for President of the United States? And people look at me like I'm crazy because it's an easy answer. And eventually somebody says Barack Obama. And I say, right. And who else? And sometimes somebody will, well, for Vice President Biden, but for President it was just Obama. And the answer is, it was, well, the answer is, it's even more fun if I get the slide right. The answer is it was Obama and his team. This guy does not win this election without his campaign staff. He does not win this election without 3,000 volunteers. He does not win this election without his wife and ex-President Bill Clinton campaigning for him. The only thing you can do as a new leader, and we are all new leaders all the time, the only thing you can accomplish is to fail. If you actually want to accomplish anything, it's all about the team. So early on, as the boss of this new employee, you need to help these people accelerate their progress. Figure out if what you're asking them to do with the organization is a complex transformation or a simple one. Figure out if their transformation is simple or complex. Somebody getting promoted from within, taking their old boss's job, it's generally a simple transformation. Somebody switching companies, industries, cultures, it's a little more complex. And then you can read the chart because you want to get them the help they need. If it's simple, all they need is a mentor, likely the boss. If it's simple organization, but a little more complex personally, they might need a developmental coach. If the organization transformation is complex, they may need the help of some outside person to help them work through the transition. Our simple model is that you can look at almost any organization by getting the people, the plans, and the practices aligned around shared purpose. And people, that's the organizational process. Plans are part of the strategic process. Practices are part of the operational process. So you've got to get these three processes in sync. That then is the core of what we laid out in Forbes and the New Leaders Playbook. Yeah, you got to do this stuff in advance, positioning yourself, leveraging the fuzzy front end, taking control of day one, all that stuff. And it never ends because you have to continue to evolve. But the core of what you want a new employee to do over his or first 100 days is embed the learning imperative, get a milestone management system up and running, figure out some early wins and start to place some bets there, get the right people in the right roles, and continue to communicate on an ongoing basis. And that then leads us to the 5 building blocks. First one is the imperative. And a good way to think about business and whatever is a different acronym, BRAVE, which is behaviors, relationships, attitudes, values, and the environment. It's a way to look at culture. It's also a way to look at leadership, environment, where we're going to play, values, what really matters, attitude, how are we going to win? How do we get our strategy and our posture and our culture aligned? Relationships, that's the pivot point. How do I connect with people? That's the moment of impact. And then once we've done that, how do we turn it into something real? How do we drive that impact through our behaviors? So, what's the most important part of a dam? Well, it depends on the purpose. If the purpose of the dam is recreation, you really got to get the water above the dam right. If the purpose of the dam is farmland or lack of flooding, then it's about the water below the dam or lack thereof. If it's about energy, it's about the turbines in the little house at the bottom. Point is, different things are important depending upon the purpose of the organization. So as part of the imperative, one of the very first things a new leader must do is get his or her team aligned around what really matters. Where are we going to play, what matters, and how are we going to win? That's building block 1. Building block 2 is milestones, and these were actually the milestones, a snapshot of milestones for one of our books. And the form is pretty straightforward. You just lay out the priority, the activity, who's got it, when it's done, and you have some status updates. The magic is in following through with this, putting the system in place and looking at it once a week, once a month, once a quarter, whatever, to make sure that people on the team are doing what they're doing and, even more importantly, getting help for the areas they need help. This is a boat christening where they're naming the boat, and they bring in a pretty girl who breaks a bottle of champagne over the bow of the ship. The most important person in this picture, most important people, are the workers at the top, because a boat christening is just an early win. It takes a long time to build a ship, and if you wait till the end to celebrate, it's a long way to go, and some people will lose interest. So the better shipbuilders build in milestones that they celebrate as early wins when they're completed. We've laid the keel. The boat's in the water. We just christened it. We just named it. We just launched it, whatever it is. So identify some early wins to help the team build momentum. Got to get the right people in the right roles. And it's, this chart is the difference between in the right role, the wrong role, poor performance, good performance. Lower left, the upper right-hand box is easy. Got somebody doing a great job in the right role. Keep feeding them. They're your stars. Don't worry about that. Lower left is relatively easy in most cultures. If they're in the wrong role and they're poor performers, move them to a different role. Could be within the organization, could be outside the organization, but don't keep torturing these people unless you want it. But get these people into a position where they can be successful. The harder ones are the upper left-hand corner, the lower right-hand corner. The upper left-hand corner, you got somebody who's in the right role, but they're not doing so great. Something's wrong here. They've got a bad boss. They've got bad direction. They don't have the right resources they need. This is where you invest because their performance can improve. On the other hand, somebody who's doing really well but is in the wrong role eventually is going to figure out they're in the wrong role. this is the person who, a really creative person who's in a very analytical job, but doing great. What you don't see is they work till whatever, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, go home, have dinner with their family, and then do another 5 hours of work every night from home because they will not let the team down. These people are going to burn out. They're going to quit. They're going to, something bad's going to happen to them if you don't move them to a better role. Communication stuff is tough. There's lots of people to deal with. There's all sorts of new media. It gets very confusing. So our short prescription is you have to map your communication, and that's an acronym for message, amplifiers, and perseverance. Get the message right. Be clear on what's really important. Get the amplifiers right. Figure out who's going to tell your story with you, for you, around you. And then persevere, because it's not, here's where I'm going, follow me. Communication takes ongoing effort with real authenticity. So, be, do, say. You got to do what you say you're going to do, and you've got to believe that's important. The last thing then is evolving. Even if you get everything right in the first 100 days, it's not enough. You're going to be continually evolving as you go. And it's important to understand whether the surprises that come your way, and there will be surprises, whether they're major or minor, temporary or enduring. And you can read the chart. If they're temporary and minor, don't worry about it. If they're enduring but minor, evolve. If it's a temporary impact with major change, that's a crisis or an opportunity to deal with that. And if it's a major change with enduring impact, you have to hit a restart button. Well, that gets me to the slide that I wanted to get to for Q&A. On my watch, I'm 3.5 minutes early. And Allie, when we're done, I have 3 last slides that I want to show people. But I thought I'd leave this slide up for Q&A. And yes, Allie, I can hear you coming back in. But guide me on this. I have no idea what to do.
In terms of the guiding, in terms of moving ahead for the other 3 slides you're seeing?
No. In terms of the Q&A. Are you going to read me questions?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to moderate it. So are we ready for the Q&A now?
So let me try this again. I am now ready for the Q&A.
Okay.
I'm certainly ready for the questions. Let's hope I'm ready for the answer part too.
Okay. All right. Okay. So
this is always the more fun part.
Okay. Great. I understand. Well, folks, as you heard, we are open for the questions and answers, obviously from George. So please, either you could raise your hand to directly speak to him. I will unmute based on the list if I see any hands raised, or you could put your questions in the question box, and I'll be happy to read them over on your behalf. I see there's one hand already raised, so let me try to unmute. Mr. Zain Faletta. Zain, if you can hear us. Zain. Zain, can
gobble it up.
all right, I think.
Yeah, you can do that.
Let me move to the question box then. I think there is some distortion. There are some questions already in the chat box. Let me go over and start with the first one. There's one interesting.
So for the people thinking about questions, a good way to ask questions is just say more about something that you're interested in.
Yeah, I think we already have some questions. One of them is, shouldn't aligning start even before day 1? Or what do you think are the important steps to be taken even before an executive is on board?
Well, yeah, I think so. Aligning, as I'm talking about aligning, it's actually, forget before day 1, which is the start date on the slide that I have up. I'm talking about aligning people before the first contact with a candidate. Because when there is a role mismatch, when it turns out that somebody comes in and they're trying to do a role or a job, and other people are looking at that person and saying, wait, why are you doing that job? That's my job, or this person does that job. And when there's a confusion around the role, the confusion is rarely between the new employee and the new employee's boss. and generally between the new employee and a peer, or the boss and one of his or her peers. And the reason for that is the boss hired somebody to do a job that somebody else was doing. And this is one of the things that's most important around aligning. So in this particular case, what I'm referring to is aligning the rest of the organization around what you want the new employee to do and how you're going to onboard them. There's, of course, a whole separate aligning piece that happens after day one, where the new employee needs to get aligned with his or her team. But what I was referring to here is the aligning that happens before the first contact. So thank you for that question. That was a good one.
Okay. We have another hand was raised. Mahmoud Sharaf, you raised your hand. Could you please introduce yourself and ask the question? Mahmoud Sharaf, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you. Actually,
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
We know that, as we know that, the turnover and bringing more staff and orienting them and bringing them and train the others would consume in the state, that's the last Fortune, reports I have read. It costs, 30% of the budget, and the game is how to lower it into 12 and 10% of the budget. We're talking about the HR budget. Now, what we have learned today is really tremendous. I mean, it's an added experience for us. How do you feel that this would really lower the cost of this, hiring and bringing, especially those key individuals within the company?
Okay, Mahmoud, could you also introduce yourself?
At the same time.
Sorry, let me just ask Mahmoud. Sorry,
This is
sir.
Mahmoud Sharaf.
From where you're calling and which company you're representing?
I'm calling from Riyadh in the Ilaj Group, medical group. We are 17 companies in the kingdom providing healthcare in different segments in the market. And my concern here really is that when you talk about huge companies bringing key staff like this, bringing them and introducing them to the companies, this is the average cost for you that you spend. So in which way you feel, from what we have learned today, how this would reduce and have a role in reducing the cost for the HR budget?
Right. So we're talking about an investment, and we're talking about an investment of time and maybe money. And the amount of investment you're in control of. Because at one level, you can just take my book, the one on this picture, the onboarding book, and you can give it to the people hiring people and say, read this and do this. And then your cost is just the book, and then the individual managers do what they can for their new employees within the normal course of their business, so there's no incremental cost beyond the book. If you then start putting it in programs and build a new orientation program, and if you do a lot of training of people, there's absolutely costs around that, but again, that's a cost you can manage. It's the other side of the equation that's so interesting, because doing this right has a number of benefits. The first one is it absolutely helps your new employees get productive faster. So whatever you wanted them to do over Pickett their first year, if they can get the same work done over Pickett their first 6 months, and they're twice as effective, twice as fast, that either makes you more money or reduces costs faster. So that's one. Second one is doing this right absolutely reduces the turnover. And the numbers we were quoting early on are 40% of new leaders fail, but the people that we've worked with in our program, we've reduced that to below 10%. So reducing your turnover from 40% to 10% is a huge financial impact, because the cost of particularly an executive failing and leaving that you didn't want them to leave, it's somewhere between 2 and 20 times their total compensation, depending upon whether you're just looking at the direct costs or the direct costs and the indirect costs that are impact on others, or the direct cost, the indirect cost, and the opportunity cost of them not doing what you hired them to do. Long answer. The short answer is the cost or the investment is variable from very little if you just want people to, the managers to do it, to you can spend a lot of money on it. But the return on that investment is huge because of the benefits in terms of accelerating employees and reducing turnover.
Okay, thank you very much. Brother Mahmoud Sharaf, you have any supplementary question, or we can move to the other callers?
Well, I do appreciate the answer. We are working now really to have most of this orientation electronically. You know, the orientation manual will be in the website, and most of this just to reduce the pain. I appreciate, his answer. He covered the point. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much for your question.
Don't forget the one-on-one support. Okay. So, the most important relationship any employee has is the relationship with their boss. The heart of this thing is what the boss is doing for the employee.
Okay, brilliant. Okay.
All right, Ali, back to you. Where do we go next?
Yeah, okay, we have another question from Sister Sybil Shaheen. The question on the chat box says, could you please recap the BRAVE method? So B stands for behavior, R for relationship, A for authenticity, and V for values, and E for, I think they want the whole acronym to be
Here we go. There it is.
Okay.
So this is BRAVE as it applies to culture. So the A is attitude. And as you apply it to culture, you can use different things you want. But the attitude in culture is, it's really how are people looking at the purpose? How are people, which group are they identifying with? Are they identifying with the individuals or the overall team? And what are the choices you're making around power? The dimensions on the inside, you can do anything you want. And BRAVE was originally designed as a shortcut to understanding culture. Some people say, oh, culture is the way we do it, and you should just know it. Other people do these very sophisticated surveys. But our thinking is, if you can understand the behaviors, the relationships, the attitudes, and the values, and the environment of an organization, you get a pretty good feel for the culture. And the way it was used here is as a way to understand individuals' preferences around behaviors, relationships, attitudes, values, and the environment, and understand the way the organization operates or works, and see whether or not there's a fit. So thank you for asking that, because BRAVE is one of our innovations, and people really like that.
Yeah.
They find it very useful.
Thank you very much. Another question, it's a supplementary on aligning. The question is, in accommodation, is it important to aligning those whom the new executive is going to further command? Reference Navy example, the person ran away after being greeted good morning by Colonel.
Well, it's a big part of it's not so much part of accommodation, it's a part of assimilation. And it gets back to the point that no one's going to follow anyone until they've earned the right to lead. And so a big part of assimilating in, it almost goes back to the first question, is aligning the team and the executive. And I didn't say aligning the team with the executive, and I certainly didn't say aligning the executive with the team. It's a mutual exercise where they get aligned with each other and agree on, actually it's the BRAVE leadership things, agree on where they're going to play, agree on, so where did I have that? Agree on, I had it right here. Agree on where they're going to play, agree on what matters, agree on how they're going to win, which is attitude, agree on how they're going to connect with others, and agree on the impact they want to make. So the short answer to the question is yes. Making sure that a team leader and team are all aligned is essential. And it's probably not part of accommodation because it is the pivot point of onboarding. It's the most important thing people do, starting before they get their day one, starting on, and following through on day one, but following through over time.
Okay, another one. How senior executives should be communicated about their induction plan? Should it be directly by the line manager, oblique boss, or HR? Who should act as the stage manager in that process?
Well, I love that question because there's more than one stage manager. The pivot point is the boss. Everybody's got a boss. If you're the CEO of the company, there's the lead director. Everybody's got a boss. And their boss is their primary stage manager. The boss is in charge. You're never, ever, ever, I mean, I've done this all around the world. You're never going to find a boss excited about onboarding as a process. That's not the way to get them engaged. The way to get them engaged is to get them excited about their new employee helping the team deliver better results faster. Bosses care about results. Once you do that, then the boss will pay attention to the onboarding process as a way to do that, and the boss will call in help from their human resources business partner as an ally to help them stage manage the new employees onboarding. So primary responsibility with the boss owns the employee, the boss owns the results. HR owns some of the processes and certainly has a commitment to help the line managers deliver what they need to deliver.
Okay, another one. In your experience, which part of the hiring process do most of the leaders go wrong in hiring and or rather acquiring the right executive?
The number one reason for failure is fit. People fail because they don't fit, they fail because they don't deliver, they fail because they don't adjust to changes down the road. And if the number one failure point is fit, the number one reason is that somebody screwed up on getting people aligned around what the role is, what the requirements were, what they really were looking for in the new employee, and they hire the wrong person. Or they don't pay attention to the new person's assimilation, and they don't get a chance to fit in. If they don't fit in, they don't have a chance of delivering, and they never get to the time where they have to adjust. So focus on fit first, then give them what they need to deliver, and then stay with them for a very long time to help them see things they need to adjust to. But the number one screw up is the boss not getting people aligned around fit.
Okay.
So you got time for one or two more because just before the close, Ali, I want to do my last 3 slides.
Okay, we have just one quickie, short question, an interesting one. On contrast, how should exit of senior executives be managed?
So I contrast that with who? Executives and whom?
I mean, I think a contrast, maybe the question is talking about rather onboarding rather than talking about the exit of senior executives.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the. Well, let me reinterpret the question, and stop me if I go the wrong direction. But one of the things to think about is the difference between onboarding an executive or a senior executive and onboarding either a frontline employee or first-line manager. And it goes to sophistication and depth and time. The onboarding program you're going to put together for a lower-level employee, back to the question about investment, you'll invest less time. It may be a half-day orientation. It may be some materials that they go through online before they start, and it may be some check-ins from their boss, but you're likely not going to have an internal coach, or certainly not a coach, or somebody really coming in to help them think things through. with the more senior executives, you've got to start farther ahead of day one. You've got to give them a chance to craft their message and plan their message and plan their own onboarding, because people are going to be looking at what they do from day one. So you'll need to start earlier. You'll need to invest more resources. They're not going to look at the electronic things, so somebody's going to help them with that. They're going to have bigger teams, so the assimilation challenge is going to be bigger, and the risk and rewards are bigger. So you're going to invest. So it's different. The core concepts are the same, but the sophistication, the depth, and the time you're going to spend is different. So if there are no more questions, I'd love to do my last 3 slides.
Sure, you can go ahead, sir.
Al, you okay with that?
Yes, we're fine. Thank you.
All right. So I started out saying, listen, there's a problem here. And the problem is that 40% of executives fail in their first 18 months. And it's because of fit, delivery, and adjustment. And the whole premise here is to turn those risks into life preservers, so you're helping them with it. And the fundamental idea is this idea of converge and evolve. New employees cannot do this on their own. They need the organization to help get people aligned around what fit looks like. They need the organization to start onboarding with that first contact, so that they are acquiring new employees in a way that starts to help them understand the culture. Need to accommodate new employees' needs. Need to assimilate them in so they fit, and then need to keep giving them the resources and support they need so they can deliver, and so they know how to react or adjust to the surprises down the road. If you do those things, you can reduce the failure rate, you can accelerate the time to productivity. It's better for everybody involved. And that's what I know. Ali, over to you to close out the
so, well, that really brings us towards the end of the webinar. I would like to thank you, George Bradt, for your time and sharing this valuable information with us. I would especially like to thank you on behalf of Mile. Any other concluding remarks you would like to give before we close?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, folks, all of you who participated in this webinar, and thank you for all the questions that you posted, and I hope it was a useful session. We are recording this webinar, which will be uploaded on our community, and we will be sharing the link with you all.